Hearing for Columbus City Council's Finance Committee. I'm Councilmember Priscilla Tyson. I'm President Pro Tem of Columbus City Council and chair this committee. I certainly want to welcome my council colleagues who are in chambers this afternoon, Councilmember Shannon Hardin, Councilmember Elizabeth Brown, and I know Councilman Mitch Brown was just in the room, so I'm sure he'll return. Before starting, I want to make you aware that this hearing is being recorded for rebroadcast on CTV, the Columbus Government Television Channel 3. The rebroadcast schedule is available at www.columbus.gov. This afternoon, we will be briefed on the city's third quarter financial review. Then we will transition to a hearing on the 2017 budget and presentations from city department directors. Prior to the hearing from directors, the auditor will review our city revenues. To begin, the Director of Finance, Joe Lombardi, will review our financial position through the third quarter of 2016. The third quarter review is an important financial report. By the end of the third quarter, we have a clear picture of how our revenue and expenses will come in for the year as a whole. This information has also been used to inform the mayor's budget proposal. On November 10th, Columbus City Council received the mayor's general fund budget proposal, and we will hold a series of hearings to discuss that proposal in the coming weeks and months. Columbus is one of the best managed cities in the entire country. We remain one of the largest cities in America to receive the AAA bond rating from the three major credit rating agencies. We also continue to set aside dollars in our rainy day fund, and this year we will have $2 million in this budget. In a moment, Director Lombardi will begin his review of our finances. He will share that the city's continued controls on hiring, lower fuel, and utility costs will allow us to again spend less than we had originally budgeted. Further, income tax revenues are trending above what initially was estimated. To provide more information about the city's third quarter financial review, I will now turn the floor over to Director Lombardi. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, President Pro Tem Tyson, other members of council. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss the city's third quarter review. As has been our custom, we have a hearing with each quarterly review to update council as to where the administration is projecting the year's budget to end up. And the third quarter review, as you had indicated, is the clear picture of where we think the fiscal year 2016 will end up as of the third quarter. The first slide I'd like to present to you is just our general fund summary projection. Very simply, this shows the total available appropriations that were allotted to the general fund as of 2016. And if you subtract the 2016 projected operating expenditures as of the third quarter, which is $821,502,000, it leaves us with a surplus of about $13.7 million. If you recall, in the second quarter, I believe we were at about $6 million. So this is a $7 million more surplus, and most of this has to do with the savings that we saw with our natural gas, with fuel, as we've all been able to see in our own vehicles, our fuel prices have gone down, and also some of the hiring. We've kind of slowed down some hiring during the second quarter, which also helps. And we have a slide as to where all those savings come from next. The general fund summary continues. Again, our rainy day fund is at $69.6 million. I don't think it moved on me here. Let me see if I can, there we go. The 27th pay period is at $17.7 million. The 27th pay period is in anticipation for, I believe the year is 2020, where we'll actually have 27 pay periods. So we want to make sure that we're ready for that year, so we continue to put money into that account, and we should be ready for that year for the 27th pay period. And then the last is the Basic City Services Fund with about $3.3 million. This was created for any kind of an economic downturn and some of the cuts that maybe we saw early on from the states. And so this was to allow us to continue providing the services to our residents if there's any kind of a downturn. Income tax continues to be our largest revenue source. Makes up about 70% of our revenue. This chart shows all of our main categories of revenue that we bring in. This is just a more detailed look at our local government fund, our fines and penalties, license and permit fees, and then all other revenue sources. But again, income tax continues to be our largest revenue source and continues to be strong as of the third quarter. As I had indicated, this pie chart shows where our savings are coming from. The biggest savings we're seeing is in our personnel, in our economic development incentives. Those are basically incentives that we've given for economic development. We have not given as many as we had anticipated, so that is savings there. And then obviously the personnel cost, either from hiring, not hiring people, or delaying some of those hirings. So that's where we get some of that savings. And then the utilities includes gas, electricity, and fuel, and I believe our fleet is where the fuel savings are coming from. The last slide I'd like to present this evening is our safety overtime report. As of September 30th, the only overtime variance that is in a slight deficit is the fire uniformed. The reason for that is there was a higher retirement than we had anticipated. I believe the 2016 budget included 40 firefighters to separate from the city in 2016. And as of the third quarter, we have seen 55 separations. And some of the savings that we will get from those wages and benefits from those will go back into the budget to make sure that those deficits are offset. And the third quarter review, also, as you recall, council passed our third quarter transfer ordinance. That transfer ordinance was to take care of any slight deficits that we may have seen coming into the third quarter. So all deficits have been offset during that with that transfer. So that concludes my brief overview of the third quarter review, and I will answer any questions that any of the council members may have.
Thank you, Director, and you've answered some of my questions. The first one was really around the $5 million. Maybe you can talk a little more about this, though. The $5 million in savings in our economic development incentive payments. I know on our second quarter review, we didn't anticipate any, I don't think any savings in that area. Could you just talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So in the second quarter, we assumed that those incentive payments would be paid out as budgeted for the year, but the development department, who is responsible for those incentives, these all have to do with the negotiations that they're having with companies, and if it's not in the best interest of the city to give those incentives, or if the deal is not in the best interest of the city, then we just didn't do them. And so this was a result of some of those deals that potentially were not in the best interest of the city.
Thank you. Also, I know there is a substantial personnel deficit projected in the fire division, and that was because of the people retiring. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. And on the revenue side, this quarterly does not include the auditor's final revised estimate, does it?
No, it does not, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. And so the quarterly shows a general fund revenue of around $795 million.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
And Mr. Doyen increased the projection to the November revision to $108.8 million, which included the 5% growth.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you. And you've addressed really the deficit in fire. And could you talk to me a little bit about the surpluses in police?
Sure. In the police, what we've seen is I think just a better deployment of our staff and some additional recruits. We will speak later at the overall budget hearing, but in this month, beginning this month, there will be a new class of 35 police officers and 25 firefighters. So I believe a lot of the savings in the police were just the fact that we've had some very good management by the chief and her staff. And that is not to say that the chief of fire is not doing a great job of managing his department. However, he has lost 55 employees. And so those are, as you know, it takes a good year to get in a new class. So there was some additional separations than what we had anticipated in 2016 on the fire side.
Are there any questions for my colleagues? No. We're just very excited. I mean, I'm pleased that we were able to, based upon how we managed our personnel, how we managed our expenses, but also recognizing that we certainly have saved a lot of money in terms of fuel costs. And so when we get to the next hearing, I'll ask you about that. But just we've had a really good year in terms of the cost has been low for fuel, and it's saved us. Well, we're down about, we're going to spend about $3.9 million less, which is probably a general fund savings, almost $3 million. So, but we'll talk about that at the next hearing. Seeing that, we're in a good position, obviously, carrying over, having $13 million extra. So are there any other questions from my colleagues? Good job to the administration and obviously to Mr. Dorian, who's in the room. And with that, I don't have any other questions. We'll get ready to conclude the third quarter review, and we'll get ready to transition to our 2017 budget briefing. And so I want to formally conclude the third quarter review and now move to the briefing from the administration. And we'll allow everyone to get in position.
Thank you.